Hello, number ones. Welcome to Metatron's Academy. Can you learn two languages or more at the same time? Well, we're going to see what a famous creator says about this, but really, before asking the can, I think the thing we should ask is the should you. Regardless of that, how to learn two languages or more at the same time. Let's read the description. A brief guide on how to learn 2, 3, or even 4 languages at the same time. Okay, you're out of your mind. Brian Wiles, I'm just going to say it. But let's see how it justifies it. But I'm going to say you're out of your mind, man.
Yes, you can absolutely learn 2. Yes, you can absolutely learn 2, 3, or even 4 languages at the same time. And in this video, I'll show you how to do it. 7 years ago, I couldn't decide if I wanted to learn Mandarin or Arabic. I kept going back and forth. It was driving me crazy. And eventually I realized that the only way I would be happy was if I learned both of them, 2 of the hardest languages for English speakers at the same time.
All right. Well, look, I'm just going to say this and I'm going to let him talk, but of course, in general, I would discourage it, particularly if you're a beginner in both. All right, I'm just going to straight with you because this guy, I think, with all due respect, it's not starting strong, man. When you're like, hey, I don't know which ones you choose, to speak them all both at the same time, and and also 4 languages. Okay, 4 languages at the same time is nonsense. There's no way he's going to defend that. But I will agree with him on one thing. At the end of the day, it's a very personal matter. I would discourage people, as I do say in my book. Link in the description to the crowdfunding, by the way. Before it closes, you can get your audiobook, which is crowdfunding exclusive. It will not be sold separately. Anyways, little plug. I'll tell you more about it later. But as I say on my book, I usually discourage people to try and pick up 2 languages at the same time as beginners, meaning you can learn multiple languages. I have throughout my entire life, but I would suggest to first get to an upper intermediate level first, and then start tackling the other one as you continue to work on this other primary language. I would say get to a base B2, maybe very high B1 if you're already experienced, before you even begin. But then again, that's just a suggestion. If you enjoy it, go ahead. No one is stopping you. You're having a good time and you're not trying to take tests. You don't require the fluency for work. Have fun.
والحمد لله أنا نجحت ودلوقتي بتكلم اللغتين دي بطلاقة.如果你想多看，你可以看一看我其他的视频吧。And the only reason I
See, for instance, now I can't judge his Arabic, but when it comes to his Mandarin, obviously that's a sentence he memorized and repeated multiple times. It doesn't tell us anything. He's saying it now to demonstrate, look at me, I did manage to pick them both up. So now that I have established my authority and you can see how fluently I speak these languages so well and I pick them up both at the same time, you're impressed. So listen to me because now you believe what I'm about to say. That's in theory the strategy and I'm sure it works. However, I can't judge his Arabic. You tell me if that sounded impressive. But when it comes to his Mandarin, even for a clearly rehearsed, who knows how many times, sentence that he specifically filmed for this video, it didn't sound impressive. It was fast. The tones didn't sound as precise as they're supposed to be. But most importantly, it doesn't really tell us how well you speak the language. Personally, rather than saying 2 sentences quickly to impress, I would be more impressed if he pointed and said, look, that's what I managed to achieve after a year or 2 studying the languages simultaneously. Here is me during a live stream interacting with people with the language.
I was able to do that was because I followed 3 key principles that I'm going to share with you right now. Language personalities. Okay. This concept might sound a little bizarre, but if you're learning 2 or more languages, it's a complete game changer. In one of my other videos, I talked about how speaking another language can actually make you feel like a slightly different version of yourself. For instance, when I speak French, I tend to feel a bit more sophisticated and worldly, and I've even noticed that my body language starts to become a little more fluid. Donc, ce matin, j'ai joué au parc avec mes enfants pendant 1h30. Whereas when I speak Arabic,
his French sounds really good. I'll give him that.
I feel more playful and relaxed, and I've even noticed that my body language becomes a little bolder and bigger. بجد لسه في مطر. فين الشمس؟ الشمس يعني يختفي. Now look, it's not always a huge change. It can be very subtle. And it's mostly something that I just kind of feel in myself. And I call that feeling a language personality. And when I realized that these different language personalities exist in me, it completely changed the way that I learn languages. Because when I started leaning into these various identities, I found that I stopped getting different languages mixed up in my head. And maybe you've even had this experience. You're learning 2 languages, but when you try to speak one, the other one keeps trying to pop in. Sí, por supuesto. Te llamaré demain. ¿Cómo se dice? Demain. No. Demain, no? Mañana. Sí, gracias. And that's because your subconscious is having trouble separating the languages. Where does one stop and the other one start? But by allowing yourself to have different language personalities, you're basically giving your subconscious big sticky boards for all the different data. Okay.
I want to comment on that. I don't think it's a bad advice. I still think the bad advice is the one at the beginning. Yeah, learn 4 languages at the same time. That's bad advice. Having established that this taken in isolation is not bad advice. The possible problem, though, that he should have absolutely tackled is that you might end up doing a stereotype, which can be, in fact, embarrassing and awkward to work with. For instance, imagine someone who tries to pick up Italian and he starts speaking "Ah sì, papi, pupi, papi, che stai facendo quando parli italiano?" You do that, it's like, come on, it's ridiculous. So while I can understand that, up to a certain extent it does happen. I imagine that when I speak English, I have a slightly different personality to when I speak Italian, sure, or Japanese, but it needs to be studied. So meaning that it needs to be authentic. Don't overdo it. Don't become a caricature, because that's going to just, and I've seen it happen, by the way. I've seen people do it. It sounds stupid. Even people are trying to pick up Japanese and they notice that the Japanese bow a lot, and then they overdo it, and even the Japanese think like, what's wrong with you? So it's important to do it after you make sure that you don't turn into a freaking caricature. General advice is not bad. Next, massive announcement. Check this out. You're gonna love it. As many of you know, or at least I think you know, I've been writing a book, my new journey into becoming an author. I've mentioned this on a few videos and on X, but this book was indeed crowdfunded. Now, any person who has donated or will donate to the crowdfunding will receive a full audiobook, and this is crowdfunding exclusive. So, as a way to say thank you to the people that have donated and supported my dream of becoming an author, if you have a minimum of $5 donation, you will receive the entirety of the audio file of the book, recorded by me with my voice, no AI involved, as a crowdfunding exclusive reward. This applies retroactively, so for all 262 donors that I've had so far, you'll get this, and anyone who decides to donate $5 or more, thank you very much, never expected, always appreciated, then you will be guaranteed a audio file of the book by the end of the crowdfunding campaign. Important, once the crowdfunding campaign is over, this audiobook version will not be made for sale. So this is, once again, crowdfunding exclusive. It's a perk. If you're interested in the audiobook, click the link in the description, and thank you so much.
French, we're going to take all the words, the sounds, the rules, and stick it to this personality. Japanese, we're going to take all that data, stick it to that personality. German, great, we're going to stick it to this personality. Are you getting the idea here? We want to cultivate the feeling of a language, the personality, so that your brain can then assign data to that feeling. And then when you want to speak or learn a different language, it's easy to make the switch. You simply lean into that different personality. Advance and maintain. Okay, you might think that consistently dividing your time between 2 or more languages would be the most efficient way to get better over time. It's not. Definitely not. Language learning is a holistic subconscious process. You're throwing a lot of new information at your brain, new sounds, new words, new sentence structures, and over the short term, that information needs to be aligned to be coming from one source, one language. So rather than learning like this with equal time and equal effort, we want to instead advance one language while maintaining the other in cycles. Back and forth, back and forth. And if you're studying 3 or more languages, it's the same idea.
No, if you're studying 3 or 4 languages, you're wasting your time.
Advance, maintain, advance, maintain. And I've actually found that when I take a complete break from studying a language, going a month or 2 months or 6 months with 0 practice, that when I come back to it, I'm surprisingly better. Sure,
You're out of your mind. I don't know what the heck this guy's talking about. Look, man, I'm trying to praise him and I'm trying to agree with some areas. But when he makes statements like this, you don't touch a language for 6 months and then you're better at it? In what planet? Brother, it does not happen. Okay. Language learners, disregard.
I'll be rusty with a little vocab, but after some time off, I always find that I can understand and speak a new language much more comfortably. I'm interested to know if other people have had this experience as well, so if you have, please leave a comment and let me know.
If you have, please seek professional help.
The principle of separation. There's one more key concept here that I want to cover: separation. If you're learning 2 or more languages at the same time, it's very important that they remain as distinct as possible in
Yes.
your mind. Now, this idea plays into language personalities and the principle of advance and maintain, but there's much more to it than that. For starters, you'll learn 2 languages more effectively if the languages themselves are very different from one another. For example, I wouldn't recommend learning, say, Spanish and Italian at the same time because there's so
We agree. On this one, 100%.
much overlap that your subconscious will need to work overtime to
Yep.
keep each language in its own lane. Likewise, it's also helpful if your proficiency levels also have some separation. For example, learning 2 languages from 0 is much more difficult than learning 1 from 0 and 1 from an intermediate level. And
Good. Okay. So I wish you started with that, man. But okay, that's your video. You choose how you present information. We agree with this one. Great.
even as you study, it's helpful to keep some distance between your target languages. So rather than doing, say, 30 minutes of French followed by 30 minutes of Mandarin back to back, do an hour of French one day and an hour of Mandarin the next. And there are plenty of other ways.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with this one, though, because daily practice is necessary for language for real, tangible, consistent progress. So if you are tackling 2 languages, I would disagree with this. Practice both daily. Space them like morning and evening if you want, but daily needs to remain. Otherwise, you're just fooling yourself. You're just learning a couple of words. At this point, just drop the second language and focus entirely on the main.
To build separation into your language learning practice. So you should find what works best for you and your learning style. If you'd like to see more videos about languages and language learning, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching.
Okay, yeah, as usual. I mean, I want to be honest, I have nothing against him personally, but I think we look at language learning in a very different way. And I'm afraid that this style of saying, learn 4, you can do it, it's, I mean, it's good for views, but is it good advice, in my opinion? No. Thank you for watching.